Welcome to Lift Your Story Podcast with guest Mike Bosch speaking about customer service and podcasting. Hi, everyone. I'm Lorianne. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we have Mike Bosch, and we're going to be speaking to customer service. And Mike is also a podcaster. Welcome.
Welcome, guys. I guess in today's episode, I'm that guest. Is that how that works? Right. I'm that guest. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm really excited to be here. I've been listening to your podcast for a while now, and I just enjoy listening to everybody's story. Right. I have found probably more recently, I am what I would identify as a people person. Right. And so I'm always interested when I meet new people as to where they're from, how they ended up, where I am. I'm in North Texas, same as Roy, not too far down the road, right? So one of the best parts about being in customer service is the fact that you get to interact with people, right? And so obviously everybody has a customer service story, right? So that's kind of the unique thing is about customer service is whether you're in the customer service industry and you're giving customer service, or you're a consumer and you're receiving customer service, right? It's that universal thing that just about everybody can at least connect to on some level. And while obviously we met recently, I, like you, Lorianne, am in the car service industry. I grew up in and around cars from a little wee age, right? I've been in the customer service industry for what I would consider 31 years after I got graduated from high school and I failed out of college the first time. I started in the customer service industry because my dad was always in the car business. So he was working at a dealership, this dealership or that dealership my entire youth. And when I decided that college wasn't the direction my life was going to go, he was working at an auto dealership and he's like, hey, good news. The porter quit. So you start today. And so I got to work in the service department. I was taking customers home. I was like the shuttle driver. So I got to talk to the customers as I was taking them home. And then I worked my way up into the parts department and a little bit into finance. And then I moved myself into the actually auto service side of it, where I've worked for the same company now for 24 years. But as I was thinking about our podcast today, I actually had a customer service experience just yesterday that I thought would be good to share with you if you guys would like to hear it.
Sure.
Yeah, because I think it's something that we can probably all relate to just a little bit. So we all know the times that we were living in. The last year has been, different, right? And things are starting to, everybody's using the term open back up, right? So my wife and I, we booked a family trip to Cozumel, Mexico. We're scheduled to go in June. I'm very fortunate that through my work pre-COVID, we did a fair amount of traveling. So I had airline miles and I was able to secure our plane tickets. So we scheduled everything with the tickets and the hotel and everything, right? And we did this about a month ago. Well, yesterday I got an email from American Airlines. They've changed my flight, right? So we had an early morning flight. That flight's been canceled. Now we have a late afternoon flight. So we don't get there the first day until like 6 o'clock. So by the time we get through customs they may not even be serving dinner by the time we get to the hotel. And so my wife, she said, this is not going to work. So we're going through our options. Okay, well, what can we do? So I said, let's call the hotel. So I called the hotel, get a hold of representative Brian. Was super nice. I wasn't, rude. This is the key part of the story, right? I'm super nice. I'm super friendly. Asking his name, how his day is going, the whole thing. Tell him my situation. I said, hey, this is what I want to know. Can I come in a day early? Do you have a room, right? So he says, yeah, we can accommodate it. It's going to be this crazy high number, right? Which is a third of the cost of the entire trip. And I was like, I can't afford that. And he's like, well, let me see what I can do for you. So he does his numbers, I hear calculator numbers crunching. He's got the old kind of the thing, he's pulling the thing, right? Talking about the reels spinning. So he comes back with what is a reasonable amount. I said, okay, let me do this. I said, let me call American Airlines, see if this is even an option. So I called American Airlines. I'm on hold for a pretty long time, right? But I didn't get frustrated, right? I stayed calm. Because I know being in the customer service industry, a lot of times customers get frustrated, right? And their frustration is taken out on you. And then, it whether we like to or not, it shapes our response, right? And then it just kind of escalates. So I'm calm. I get a hold of Nora at American Airlines customer service. I tell her the situation. She pulls up my record and she says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Bosch, there's not another direct flight on Sunday." I said, "No, I know, but there is a direct flight on Saturday, the day before." She looks it up. Sure enough, she goes, "Yes, you're right. I can put you on that flight if that would work better for you." And I was like, yes, that is exactly what. So she moved my flight to the next day. I was able to get my hotel. So now we get an extra day of vacation, right? But it could have easily have gone a different way, right? And so it just goes to show, right, that it's true that the only expression that's older than the squeaky wheel gets the grease is you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right? And I actually Googled that, and it is true that phrase and saying is in fact older in recorded history. You can catch more flies with honey is actually from the 1700s, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease didn't happen until the 1800s when the wagon was invented. So I did a little bit of research on that, but that is a true story.
Hey, Mike, that reminds me that when I was working, we had this job. I was in construction, and we had these light fixtures. They had to be here on a certain day because we had so much time to install them, to get the job inspected, the people to move in, blah, blah, okay? So call the rep, and he says, "Well, I don't know, they're supposed to be here on the airplane, but I can't get confirmation on it yet." So I said, "Well, give me the name so I can call somebody." So I'm sitting in the office, calling. So I told the guy, "Hey, look, I'm with XYZ Electric. We're supposed to have a load of light fixtures that we're supposed to ship out on an airplane. I'm just calling to see what the status is." "Well, just a minute, let me check." So I'm thinking she put me on hold, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me to find, I'm going to myself, "Come on, lady, hurry up." She goes, "Well, sir, I'm going as fast as I can."
Yeah.
I said, "I'm sorry. I thought I was on hold. I was talking to myself. I'm just a little frustrated because this is so critical." I said, "It was nothing against you. I apologize."
Yeah, and I think Roy, that's such a relatable story, because I think we can like last night I had the presence of mind to say, okay, it's not Brian's responsibility, or it's not Nora didn't change my flight plans, right? I'm not going to take it out of them. I'm just going to calmly and rationally explain my situation, explain how I got into the situation that I'm in, right? Even though they helped with it, right? But just see if we can come to a resolution that I didn't demand, that they pay for the hotel. Wasn't unreasonable, right? I came up with what it was a reasonable solution to the situation. I presented it to them in a calm and rational way, right? And there was no reason for them not to take it. And I think if more customer service interactions could go that way, everybody would be better. Now, is that possible and realistic? I don't know, right? I'm not saying that every customer service solution or situation that escalates is one person's fault or the other, right? I'm just saying that thankfully last night I had the presence of mind to say, okay, let's see if we can get the resolution that'll be good, versus just blowing some people up on email or demanding to speak to managers and things like that, right? Because that's, at the end of the day, right, we're just human beings trying to do our job, trying to do the best job that we can, right? And so I think that was just something that happened to me last night. So I knew that we were going to be having this conversation this morning. So I thought, man, how poignant, right? That I put in a position where I was going to talk about customer service, but I was on the opposite side of it, and just to be able to share that experience, right? So I don't know how it's been for you guys over the last year. I mean, obviously, Roy, I'm not retired. I don't know about Lori Ann if you're retired quite yet, but I still work every day, right? But and so our interaction through work has changed a lot, right? We like I said before, we did a fair amount of traveling through the pandemic. We were kind of locked in. Being in the customer service industry, we were fortunate enough that we were part of the nation's infrastructure. So we did maintain to be able to operate. But it changed our interactions a lot, at least in the department that I work in. I work in a support department. And so we did a lot of virtual meetings, right? And it was something that prior to May or April of last year, I had never participated in, right? We did a lot of conference calls. And so when we shifted to this virtual meeting, it was a bit of a culture shock, right? It was funny because in the beginning, not everybody had a web camera, so not everybody had the true technology. But then even once they did, not everybody was comfortable with it, right? There was that learning curve, and I don't want to come off the wrong way, but I'm very fortunate that I'm a relatively outgoing person, and so I was kind of leaned on a little bit to help lighten the transition and to help it along. And so I was able to do a little bit of research, came across a thing called Snap Camera. So it's just like Snapchat for your phone, but on your video conference, you can put filters, so you can change your head and you can put funny things on. So I would just randomly interject into meetings with like big sunglasses and a disco ball, just to kind of lighten it up. And then I became like you, Roy. I became that guy, and I was calling people out for not having their cameras on. I was like, "Hey, I see Joe's icon is here, but I don't see Joe," right? And so that was fun for a while. But one of the very first, I'll never forget it. One of the very first meetings that I was in, it was a Zoom meeting, and I was on my phone, and I guess what they call nearsighted, right? So without my glasses on, I can't see. I have to hold something really close to my face. So I'm sitting at my desk. I've got my phone on, and I've got my phone really close to my face because I'm watching the PowerPoint. And I thought, oh, this is important information. I'm going to record this call. So I hit the record button, right? Not realizing that was turning my camera on. So for the entire presentation of this meeting, all everybody could see was my eyeball because I was so close to my phone, right? So for the next week or two, just randomly in meetings, people would put their faces really close to the camera, right, making fun of me. But that was okay, right? It was okay to be. It was because it was all part of the fun, right? And that was fine. And so we've had some definitely some fun experiences, but what it did is it opened me up to a different world. And I've got a teammate that I work with who's a little bit younger than me, but we have really good rapport. And we were on a meeting one day, and somebody said, "Man, this is probably you two's conversation is probably what a podcast would sound like." And I was like, "Hey, I don't know anything about podcasts, and what's that like, right?" And so I hope you guys don't mind, right? I'm not here to steal your listeners or anything like that, but I was very fortunate that we were able to work it out, and we actually started our own podcast earlier this year. So I think we started out with pretty humble beginnings. We didn't know what we were doing. It was originally going to be just the two of us recording a conversation because everything we said was that important and smart and witty and fun that we had to share it with the world, right? I mean, why would you not want to listen to me and somebody just like me speak for 30 minutes, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. So we put together what we think is just like, we had this really great concept, right? So our show title is Total Nonsense with Josh and Bosch, right? So it's his name is Josh Rohde, I'm Mike Bosch, right? So it's just, we were just going to be random, and our show preparation was going to be, what kind of nonsense did you get into this week? And the other one was just going to tell a story, right? And so we started off, we were super excited. We released our first episode. And of course, we told everybody at work about it, right? And we got some good traction. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe we know some really interesting people. Let's ask some guests. Like let's see what this. So we were fortunate enough that we worked with a teammate who is a semi-professional ghost hunter. So he came on and told ghost hunting stories, and that was super. Everybody got behind that. And then our actual boss agreed to come on, which I'm still surprised to this day because she puts up with our nonsense, 8 to 5 every day. To agree to come on afterwards was ridiculous. But she's so entertaining, and she's got such an interesting story that she came on, and we just talked, right? And then I found out that one of the ladies that works in marketing, her husband is in a death metal band, and they're getting ready to release an EP. So we invited them on, and so we're talking to them. And so now we fancied ourselves as we're these international stars, and we're lifting up the podcast community. And I don't know about you guys. I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am. But when I come full circle, what it's done is it's allowed me to interact with people, and I'm a people person, right? That I wouldn't normally come across in everyday life. And what could really be better than that?
Mike, your journey is me and Lorianne all over, right? So
Yeah.
so she's in Canada. I'm in Dallas, Texas. We've never met personally, but we were involved in a Facebook group. And
Oh, wow.
We were doing some training on different things, marketing and branding and different things. And so we would have a topic each week. We would, we was 5 of us, we'd all talk on it and stuff. And so one time the leader said, hey, somebody needs to help me out. And I got this stuff. And I said, well, how would you feel about if I did like a podcasting series? He goes, that'd be great. Because it was just something that I'd heard about, didn't know anything about. And I thought, well, I'll learn about it. Maybe people want to learn about it. So I did like a 5-week presentation. And then at the end of it, Lorianne says, she goes, hey, let's start a podcast. And I'm going, whoa, about what? We start a podcast. And so I said, well, okay. Ours was, we started out, it was opposites, people that are opposite.
Yeah, we called it the oppositors. That was our first name was
opposite. Oh, how clever. Yeah, how clever.
So then we went to different things and through our process, we found out that we may interview John Smith, who's a doctor, but he's telling a story of something happened that was way more interesting than being a doctor.
Yep.
And so we got thinking, you know what? Everybody has a story, no matter who they are. Everybody has a story. So we shifted. That's how we came up with Lift Your Story.
That is awesome. Yeah, it's right. And that's kind of what we were thought is, people are so interesting, right? Just the everyday people that you deal with. And I think our very first guest was a prime example, because I work in a building, maybe 100 people, 150 at the max. I couldn't tell you how many people said, I didn't know he did that. Like, he hunts ghosts. That's a real thing, right? And this is a real, he's got all the equipment with the fancy gadgets and all that stuff, right? And so just to be able to get to know somebody just a little bit deeper, right, has really been fun. The guys in the death metal band, like, I'm not gonna lie, I had an idea going into that, what they were going to be like, and it was nothing like they turned out to be. They were so interesting to talk to, and they were talking music theory, and it was like it wasn't just up there with no thought or anything. Their songs and their craft and their art, they take a lot of pride in that, and it was so interesting. And of course, we haven't been doing it as long as you guys yet. Right? Fingers crossed. We'll see how things go, but we sure are having fun working this thing out. And you're right, Roy, we had to learn some things that we didn't know, because while I live in Dallas, my co-host lives in Minnesota, and we've met in person, but we don't see each other face to face. And so it's interesting. It's almost in a weird way, the pandemic has created an environment that's even a little bit more forgiving for this remote style, right? Because probably pre-COVID, the expectation was 2 individuals were in the same room, and there was probably a logistical nightmare in some cases, right, of getting all that stuff worked out. And so I don't know how it's been for you guys, getting your schedules worked out and booking your guests and things like that.
A lot better than it was at the beginning, trust me.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of going, okay, Roy, do you have time? And then this person, you have that. And I just said, okay, heck with the acuity, here we come. That's it.
Yeah, that is so funny. That is so funny.
But sorry,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're talking about that, people in the building, because when I was in the automotive industry, you sit there and you go, yeah, techs or service managers or whatever. And then I found out, my service manager, she's no longer there, but She was like a really big like singer in the Hispanic community. And you're
Yeah.
looking at her, you're going, really? And then
Right.
another guy in the back, he played for the conservatory, like piano, when he was younger. And you know, you look at them and you go, wow, all I knew is that, you know, cars.
Yeah.
There's so much more beyond that that we just don't know. And that's where, you know, Roy and I love that, because you're sitting there going, yeah, you might be, you know, a service manager in a dealership, but all of a sudden there's this like, whoa, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because you get to learn a whole nother side of people, and
Yeah.
and not everybody is as open or you know, I'm gonna say outgoing, but outspoken about telling you what their interests are, right? I've probably never been accused of that. I've done some interesting things in my life and everybody knows about it, right? I'm told, like, I go around telling the story and they're like, I get it. Okay, this is what you're doing. So move on, right? And so, like, there's probably not a single person in this building doesn't know what I'm currently up to, which is, you know, hey, it's fine, right? If you know, someone once told me that if you're good at what you do, you don't have to tell anybody because everybody else will tell.
Yeah.
But when you're not so good at what you do, right, you got to be good at self-promotion, right? So everybody's got to be good at something. Right? So I'm good at self-promotion, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, but you know,
That is,
without your podcast, think of the people that you never would have gotten to know,
oh, for sure.
and stuff. You know, I mean, it brings so many people from so many backgrounds and stories that you never would have ever heard. We had a lady that was a lice that does
Yeah.
treats people that have lice. We've had, I mean,
Well,
we
that's
had a gal that started a shoe shine business in airports. I mean, just and never ever would have known them or heard
Yeah.
the stories.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you start to ask the questions, right? Whether you're podcasting or whether you're just interacting with somebody, like you were saying, Lorianne, you really get to know people, right?
Mhm.
And so I've been very fortunate that I've always kind of had that outlook of, let me get to know you. Like, what are your interests? Like, maybe we have a common. I can't stand silence. Like, you know, that some people are say, hey, you have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable silence. That's not me. I get all nervous and jittery and I rant, you know, and so I will always ask, well, you know, what do you do? So I would much rather learn about somebody than just sit there in uncomfortable silence or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And so to your point, Roy, I think through this medium, it's expanded my reach. So now I'm not limited just the people here in North Texas or just the people that I get to meet while I'm traveling, but it's people all around the world. I mean, we've met some really interesting people in just our short little journey so far. I mean, I had a gentleman reach out to me from Australia just this week, and he wants to come on our show. And I was like, man, that's really cool. Like, we have to figure out the whole time zone differences and things like that. I don't know how that works, but you know, you got to love technology, right? My co-host makes fun of me all the time because I will reference things that have been in place for a really long time, like they just happened. Like, I was talking to somebody, I was like, yeah, it's like binge watching. It's like that new thing, like binge watching shows. And he's like, Mike, that's been around for like 10 years. That's not something new. And same thing with like these virtual meetings. While we've just now recently discovered them and embraced them, they actually have been around a while, right?
Yeah.
We just never put ourselves in a position where we were fortunate enough to find out how cool they were, right? I don't have to travel across the country to sit with somebody for an hour. I can just click a few buttons, have a good internet connection, and we're ready to go.
So this is how old I am. I remember having ICQ, and
Is that right?
it was the ball, and then you got to first it started black and white, then the color came out. Oh, we would have these little meetings where there's a bunch of people from all over the world that would pop up into these little groups, and it was just like Zoom, but obviously a lot lower. Now, speaking of, you know, I just want to bring this up quickly because you're talking about the customer service. I just want to pop back to that uncomfortable silence. So
yeah,
here's the thing is I just have to bring up experiences on this side. So you talked about, you know, dealing with customer service, but being on the side where you're getting the flack. you're talking about like uncomfortable silences, having to sit there while one of your customers is yelling at you for a good 15 minutes and you can't say anything.
Yeah.
You really need to have a proper mindset to be able to deal with that. So all those people on the phone too, taking that, there is definitely a training in this.
There absolutely is. And I'm fortunate enough to where I work for a company that we have the size and the scale that we've gone through that, right? And some of it is, reading your customer, right? Because while there are some techniques that are effective, every situation is different and everybody, right? But sometimes it's good, as uncomfortable it is, just to listen, right? Because somebody just wants to, to know that they're being heard, right? And so you don't want to offer a solution to their problem before they've even got to express what their problem is, right? So it's listening, it's affirming, right? That while you may feel you did everything right, you can't put yourself in a I'm right and you're wrong scenario, right? So you have to acknowledge that whatever they're concerned about is valid, right? You may be on differing sides of the situation, but that doesn't make their concerns any less valid than your position, right? So it's doing that, and then it's offering what I have found, to be honest with you, the most effective thing is a sincere apology for the situation, right? Whatever this, whatever the situation was that caused them discomfort, you apologize for the discomfort, right? You apologize that's how the result of it is, right? I found that just a sincere apology for a lot of people will go a long way. And it's maybe because a lot of people are conditioned that they don't get that, right? It's very common for somebody to become combative, right? And they want to defend themselves as being right. And that's the worst thing, in my experience, right, in my training, that you can do in that situation, right? Is just sit there and listen, acknowledge, right? Offer some empathy, apologize, and then start to come to some sort of resolution.
It was funny because the guys in parts that don't have to deal with this generally, one of them came up to me and go, how did you do that? How did you do that? I was jumped over the counter.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Just do it. And I also sometimes think, and it has happened, and it's the truth, that some people are really having a bad day. And that one thing, that happened just on that one day, you just happened to be the person that just
for sure
straw,
Yeah.
So anyway.
I think the situation that I see the most common that I get bothered by is when I'm in a situation. So I'm at a fast food restaurant and somebody's unhappy with their order or whatever, right? And so they're just wearing somebody out, right? And you have to, you're a little bit removed from the situation, and the person at the front counter that's taking the brunt of it, they're not the person that didn't put onions on your hamburger or whatever, right? And you just wonder, like, okay, if they were to watch a recording of themselves back, would they think that was the right way to handle that situation, or was there another avenue that they could have taken? But you're right, Lorianne, you don't know what somebody's day has been up to that point. And so, the best case scenario from the food service industry, right, would be the approach of just listening, apologizing, and correcting it, right? But that doesn't always happen either, right? Because they probably don't have the training. It's not what do they say? Sometimes it's either the skill or the will, right? So is it somebody doesn't want to do it, or maybe they weren't in a situation where somebody trained them the proper way to handle that situation, right? So I think both sides of the situation could improve their behavior and their actions that would make whatever interaction go so much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, how can our listeners reach out to you?
Well, so we actually, we really encourage listener emails, to be honest with you. We have an email address. It's really, really long. I told someone the other day I was going to count up how many points it would be worth on the Scrabble board. I'm guessing about 200, but it's total nonsense with Josh and Bosch @gmail.com. And you actually do have to spell "and" out. It's not that little crazy symbol on the keyboard, but you actually sign it out. And then or you can follow us on Instagram. We actually have Instagram. We've moved into the whatever century we're in today. We actually have an Instagram account, and it's the same thing. It's Total Nonsense with Josh and Bosch. So, you can hit us up on Instagram. And then obviously our podcasts are available wherever you find your podcasts, right? And it's Total Nonsense with Josh and Bosch. We would, give us a listen. We're not going to be for everybody. If you listen to our podcast and you don't like what you hear, maybe you should, go to the doctor, get yourself checked out or something. I don't know. There's something wrong with it. No, I'm just kidding, right? We're for everybody, but it literally is just a bunch of nonsense. We get into some cool topics, but just like with you, our conversation, it's much more than we had the death metal guys on, or we had an author who's getting ready to release his next book. We get to talk about just life and their backstory and your history. We've been having so much fun, and I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a blast. What better way than I could have spent my lunch hour than hanging out with you guys today?
Love it. And thank you for spending lunch hour with us.
Yeah, it's been great, and I wish you all the best on your podcast.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you. I heard you guys are killing it right now.
Well, we're doing surprisingly well.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I'll say that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, Mike.
you.
Well, thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I know you're anxious to get back to work.
Yeah, a lot of work to do.
All right,
Thanks, guys. You have a great day.
You too.
Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.